Hi, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really pleased to present to you a new project that we're working on with our partners, the Floow, called Maximising the Accessibility and Impact of Telematics Speed Data for Enforcement, Road Safety Engineering and Research. I'm Dr. Suzy Charman. I'm the Executive Director of the Road Safety Foundation, and joining me today we have Dr. Chapman, who's the Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of the Floow. So the project is a new project. We just started it in September 2021. It will run for 2 years and it's funded by the Road Safety Trust. The project's being led by the Road Safety Foundation, and the speed data platform and data that will be contained within it will be delivered by the Floow. So the Road Safety Foundation is a UK charity focused upon road casualty reduction. We are the EURAP and IRAP licence holder for the UK. So you might know us from our crash risk mapping work and from our IRAP surveys. Sam.
And we are the Floow. We're a global telematics data gathering company that gathers information from vehicles in order to understand risk analysis on behalf of those that are driving. And in the UK, we have the best quality telematics behavioural data giving insight for the UK roads. The project also brings together a wide range of stakeholders and involved parties, and these include across a wide variety of organisations ranging from Community Speedwatch to city councils, borough councils, local parish councils, Transport for West Midlands, National Highways and the police and relevant fire services for the region. The aim for this is to build a platform whereby we can utilise data for all across these stakeholders, allow their interactions, and that will be available to other regions beyond the life of the project. First of all, though, what is telematics speed data? This is aggregated data from tracked vehicles, which is gathered from a large number of vehicles as they're operating and moving around the UK roads. Now, this can be amalgamated and amassed together in order to provide information on driver operating speeds. What you can see in the image here is a building of the 85th percentile speeds. Now, this gives excellent coverage across the entire road network rather than just additional monitoring points. And it can evidence fine-grained behaviour around individual junctions, turnings, roundabouts, where people speed up and slow down. So this allows us to collate information from individualised movements according to a region of interest, and building up information on short segments of road to understand behaviour by days of week or hours of day in order to understand the specific activities of road users in that environment over a period of time. Now, this can give a very refined view of speed over a particular part of the road network. What you can see here is an individual trace down a section of road, whereby you can see the speed up and slow down that's evident throughout all car journeys, when you can start to see where journeys are slowing down, where there's aspects of higher risk, where there's intersections or queuing traffic, whereby the behaviour alters. And it's important to take these things into account in future considerations of risk, rather than just assuming the posted speed limit or a modelled speed behaviour is endemic across an entire road. Over to you, Suzy.
Thanks. So the reason that we're really enthusiastic about this project is because we've been using the Flow's data in our IRAP surveys for the last year or so. So on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see an IRAP speed worm, we call them. As you move along the x-axis, it's like moving along the road, and you can see how the posted speed limit goes up and down. That's in orange, and you can see the 85th percentile speed in grey and the operating speed, the mean operating speed, sorry, in yellow. So you can see how this changes as you move along the route. Now, typically, we have to base these speed data that we put into the IRAP surveys on spot speed surveys, and then we might apply the same speed to all of the speed limits that are common, so the same 85th and mean speeds to the same speed limits, and you end up with quite a clunky picture. Compare that to the graph on the right, which is the same speed worm but using the Flow's data. You can see that we've got much more rich picture of how people are using the road, where they're speeding up, where they're slowing down, in comparison to that sort of more traditional spot-based speed survey. So what it's bringing is a better understanding of how people are using that route, and that then impacts upon our understanding of risk along the route. So if you have the next slide, please. So this little analysis shows how traditional speeds and telematic speeds have an influence on the risk worm. So the risk worm is, again, crawling along the route. So the x-axis is distance along the route, and then risk is on the y-axis. So you can see that in some instances, the telematic speeds plot risk higher than the traditional speed surveys, and sometimes it's the opposite way around. But what it does is it helps us to direct our understanding of how risk is changing in a more accurate manner as we move along that graph. And that ultimately has an impact on all of our understanding of what countermeasures might be effective and cost effective at particular locations and so on and so forth. So it has a real knock-on effect into our analytics and so on. So we really felt that this data would be extremely useful, not just to the road safety engineers that we work with through IRAP surveys, but to a wider group. Next slide, please. So what we're trying to do is to create a speed platform accessible to all road safety stakeholders in the West Midlands area to support evidence-led working in the sort of same manner that I just described, but also to support a collaboration based on a common understanding of data, allowing for a multidisciplinary approach to speed management to be taken along routes. So what we're going to be doing is not just providing the data and accessibility to that data, but also we're going to be developing guidance. So what's really going to happen is there's going to be a ton of data that we've never really had before on such large scale. And what we've got to do is to try and find the guidance and the standard operating procedures that work to allow us to maximise the impact of the data on things like informing enforcement and educational approach, informing speed limit reviews, and informing engineering approach. So it's not just about the platform, it's also about the guidance and the policy approach as well to using the data. And then also we'll be moving into an implementation stage in the project and evaluating that implementation to test the utility of the data and to test the standard operating procedures and guidance that we develop. Next slide, please. So the project has project management throughout, as all projects do, but at the moment we're in work package 1 at the conceptual design stage. So we're talking to you at a very early stage in this project for a very good reason. Hopefully it will become obvious later. We're then going to be moving into a sort of stakeholder engagement process. We've got our first focus groups in December 2021, where we'll be presenting the clickable wireframe, which is like a mock-up of how the platform's going to work and how the data is going to be presented. We'll be presenting that to West Midlands stakeholders then, getting feedback, refining our plans and developing a detailed specification in work package 3, where we build the platform and process the data, and that will happen by July 2022. We'll also, in parallel, in work package 4, be developing those standard operating procedures and guidance documents with our stakeholders and with people like DFT as well by 2022, July 2022. And then we're going to move into that key implementation period from July 22 to March 23. So this is really important. This is where we're trying to get as many people looking at implementing the use of the data through those guidance documents and the standard operating procedures. Then we're going to be moving to an evaluation stage towards the end of the project and dissemination. If you click as well again, please, Sam. So those guidance documents and SOPs will be all about informing enforcement and educational approach, particularly focused at the police and community speed watch. So we'll be looking at how we can prioritise locations for enforcement effort, not just the sort of strategic enforcement, also down to the neighbourhood policing teams and also community speed watch efforts. So to try and make those more strategic and to make them more targeted at locations where there is a problem in terms of road safety risk. And we'll be also using the data to evaluate those efforts. We'll also be using the data as well to inform speed limit reviews. So we need guidance documents and SOPs to support that activity. So looking at the role of actual speeds, those 85th percentile and mean speeds, alongside the notion of safe speeds to inform speed limit review, and again evaluating the impact. And finally, looking at how we inform the engineering approach taken by road authorities. So the role of informative speed data to shape road safety engineering approach, credibility of speed limits, speed management, sharp braking, identification, and so on. And also a key part of that will be using the telematics data in IRAP surveys, both ones that we've already done and ones that we hope to do in the future. Next slide, please. So the key part of this project for us is that implementation stage. That's the bit that's not fully within our control, but we'd like to encourage lots and lots of people to use the data. So that's both stakeholders in the West Midlands, so community speedwatch groups. If there are any listening today, please get in touch. We'd love to work with you to implement the use of the data in your local area, other local authorities in the region, anyone else that has been watching this and thinking, oh, I'd love to get my hands on that lovely granular data to inform my practice. We'd love to talk to you to gain more use cases and more understanding of how the data can be used by road safety stakeholders. We're also looking to engage with other researchers and policymakers. What could you do with this kind of data? Is it useful for planning, for preparedness, for connected and autonomous vehicles, for example? Do you want to use the data to evaluate educational interventions? Basically, anything you can think of where you'd like to use this data, we'd love to support you and make the data available to you in your work. And also, of course, we're starting with the West Midlands, but we'd love this platform to be used more broadly across the UK. So please do get in touch. Again, if you're not in the West Midlands and you'd like to explore how you could use this platform in your own work, then please contact us and we'll be delighted to talk to you about that. So thanks so much for your time today. It's been a delight to talk to you about this project. I hope it's of interest to you and I hope you'll be watching for the results. And I hope there'll be some of you out there that will be able to join us in our implementation phase. Thanks so much.